and we are live streaming. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for our first ever lunch session of public participation on the District of Sechelt budget. I'm Carrie Ann Polson, the Executive Assistant to Mayor and Council and the Communications Department. We are so excited to be able to offer this new option for engagement as we move forward through this budget deliberation process. We're online here. We have 15 participants, including 3 members of the public, and lots of our staff and council members are also online, so that's great. This session is going to focus on sewer and septage costs. You are welcome to ask questions about any areas of the budget, but if they're not on septage and sewer, we're going to be saving those for the end of the session. If we do run out of time, then we'll make sure to bring those questions up at the next public participation session following the Committee of the Whole meeting where those topics are addressed as well. So to kick it off, our Director of Financial Services, David Douglas, will provide a quick recap of the presentation from the January 27th Committee of the Whole meeting, where the draft budget for sewer and septage were introduced to Council. You can watch the full presentation on our YouTube channel, and the agenda is also available on our website. I thought we could start with a show of hands to see if everybody had already watched the Committee of the Whole presentation on YouTube or live on the Zoom meeting. The reason for that is if everyone's already seen the presentation, Director Douglas can shorten the recap so that everybody's not hearing the same information again. Can everybody or all the members of the public use the raise hand feature to indicate if you've watched the Committee of the Whole from January 27th? I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, then I think Director Douglas is going to give us a good overview of the presentation that happened on the 27th, and then we'll go into questions. So there's a few different ways you can ask questions. We do have the chat feature available for this meeting, and you can also raise your hand to ask a question verbally. If anybody's on the phone line, I don't see any telephone callers right now, but I'll keep an eye out for that and make sure to mention the instructions on how to raise your hand and mute and unmute yourself if we do get any callers. With that, I will hand it over to Mayor Seegers. Mayor Seegers, did you want to make any introductory remarks before we get started?
I just want to say thank you for taking the time to be here to members of the community. We didn't know if people would, come to something like this, but we want to have opportunities for you to ask questions, be heard, any concerns you have, and make sure you have the information so that you can tell us what your issues or concerns are. So I just want to say thank you, and go out to the community, pass on the word, tell them we're doing more of these, and invite more people to come and join us. I'd like to thank Council for taking time to be here as well. I know we have Councillor Lamb, Councillor McLean, Councillor Kuster, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Scott. So lots of us are here. We're wanting to hear what you have to say to us. So I'm going to turn over to David Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship and Carrie Ann. I'm just going to share my screen to show the PowerPoint's presentation. Okay, so this is the information that's contained in my PowerPoint is information that's been to Committee of the Whole, and I've summarized it quite a bit just to have topics to be able to talk about here at our meeting session. And so really we're just a bit of a review of the 2021 sewer operating and capital. And once again, I intend to be fairly brief with each slide, but we can revisit a slide if somebody makes that request. So this is just a visual on what our sewer system and collection system looks like at this point. We currently have just over half of the residences on our sewer system. And, we have, so what do we own? What do we have in our sewer fund? We have the Dusty Road pre-treatment plant, which is where all septage goes. So if you have a containment or a sewer system in your yard, when it's pumped out, it ends up going up to the Dusty Road station. We have an entire sewer collection system, which includes about 50 kilometers of underground sanitary pipe. We have 9 lift stations, 1 sanitary outfall, there's a portion that goes from the treatment plant to the edge of the ocean, and then another section that continues out into the ocean. And you'll see that we're needing to upgrade that a little bit in the next 5 years. So we also have 1,007 maintenance holes. Those used to be called manholes. We're calling them maintenance holes now. And we have the Water Resource Center. Currently, we have the capacity to take on more sewage into our treatment plant. Our daily average flow is about 2,200 cubic meters. The capacity is 4,000 cubic meters per day. So, there is some capacity there. We do have about 2,900 properties connected to our sewer system. And that's out of a total of 5,627 properties. So we have started a discussion with council on expansion and what that might look like, what our options are there. We can be proactive. We can apply for grants. We can look at using user fees or frontage charges to expand our system. The other one we're talking about is expansion into existing neighborhoods. We have applied for grants in the past, and we haven't. Although we did get one grant, we have also been denied. Expansion also has happened by development. So that means a developer would have to extend the line and plumb their own subdivisions, and then they would come into our system as well. Little bit of information on the Water Resource Center. It's more than 5 years old. A lot of maintenance that needs to go on there, whether it be annual, biannual. Sometimes it's maintenance that's needed every 3 or 4 years. And we're getting a really good handle on what that looks like going forward. Like we said, it's a fairly new plant, but as we go forward, we learn more and we have to do more. So some of the property equipment there needs to be replaced or requires major maintenance, which isn't a surprise to us. It is 5 years old. The overall maintenance, though, needs to be elevated. And, a lot of the increases to this budget this year reflect that one comment. Currently, it's understaffed. We could utilize a little more staffing there. And of course, this is all the work that we do there is to keep in compliance with our permit. And one area that we really want to focus on is asset management. We need to set funds aside for major maintenance and replacement, and we need to plan for that as well. Of the current 9 lift stations, we have 3 that need to be replaced in the next number of years. The Wakefield lift station, which is in the current budget, estimated at just about $900,000, is we have a grant application out on that, and we're waiting to hear back from that. Norris Bay lift station, we were able to do a little bit of upgrading there this year, so we have 2 to 3 more years before we really need to look at that one. The Mackenzie lift station is another one that will be needing attention in the near future. And although that's in the 5-year financial plan, it is not in the current budget year for replacement. So this is just a list of ongoing costs, new ongoing costs that we've identified from one year to the next. Some of these were presented last year, and we put them off for a year, but we do need to maintain the facility at the WRC a little bit greater, and most of these items are for the WRC. I wasn't going to go through these in general, or in detail, but generally speaking, these are all necessary. There's not much what we would call as nice to haves. Annual maintenance. It's proven that if you do the adequate annual maintenance, that over the long haul you spend less money on your renewing your assets or doing major maintenance than you would if you didn't. So, and the list continues here with a few one-time only items, and once again, most of these are for the treatment area. So one of the asks there was for an additional person a part-time person at the waste transfer or the water resource center. Once again, this is everybody that works at the water resource center also helps maintain the collection system and the pump stations or lift stations. And so, there's a lot of work to be done, and the staff is stretched. So this is a list of the OneYear Capital list. Some of these items have been carried forward from the previous year. The first number of items there, including the Wakefield lift station. Once again, we've applied for a grant there, and it's important that we renew these items as they come up for renewal. As we go down, you'll see the list, which we can revisit a little later. Some of the bigger items is a chemical storage area for the water resource center at $350,000. Septage disposal from Dusty Road. We'll talk about that in a few more minutes. And some replacements of our manholes or maintenance holes that are in the road. So overall, we have a budget list here of $2.8 million, just over, and we don't see a lot here that's nice to have. It's a lot of it is we need to do these things. So just a quick look. I've summarized this is just the sewer system. This does not include the Dusty Road system. It's important for council to make sure the public knows that the Dusty Road septage receiving area stands alone, is financially viable on its own, and doesn't utilize user fees for its maintenance and its upkeep. So this presentation just shows the two areas separate, and this is the sewer system by itself. The revenues, we're estimating overall revenues to be 4.3 million, expenses of 3.9. Other non-operating items come into play here as cash items, like debt payments, transfers to reserves. We are looking at taking on a little bit of new debt here. This $350,000 would be for the storage chemical area. And then just capital related to the sewer system by itself is 2.1 million. And as we said, we have 2.8 million there in overall capital, but the other items are for the Dusty Road Station. So overall, we're with adding in the one-time only items, adding in the ongoing new items and the capital, we sit at about a $443,000 deficit. And right now, what's been presented to committee of the whole is an increase of tax of user fees of 23%, which would bring in a further $476,000, creating a small surplus that would go into either a capital reserve or into prior year surplus. As I'll show you in a minute, those levels need to also come up as we move forward. The Dusty Road septage receiving facility, it has costs, significant costs. We have some solids up there drying out, or dewatering they call it, and we're estimating that could cost us $500,000 to dispose of in 2021. And because we have to also do trench or dig out, every 2 years we need to do a dig of our ponds up there. That expense will occur again in 2023. So it's important for us to put money aside from that operation to cover these costs down the road. Current lease on that area expires in 2031, and we are looking at what our options are there, or what we're going to have to do or be able to do there. So, we are hoping that we can continue there after that. If not, then we have to look at other options. We have to clean up the site. We're always looking at, what this service level is that we provide there, and, whether the current service level is adequate or not adequate. And, as new technologies come forward, we may at some point may be able to discontinue that service and offer it in a different way. And, all these things are always in the back of our minds, and we're always trying to look at the most efficient way of dealing with the septage that's generated in the area. Once again, this is a list of some ongoing new costs that we put forward to the committee. One of the items is if we wanted to enhance our services there, we would need another part-time operator to help out with that. So that's we've had to just reel back the amount of time people are allowed to dump there. I think dumping now is from 8 in the morning till 2. If we want to expand that, we would need additional staff. So this is a quick look at the revenues and expenses. This is without capital in it. Revenues are estimated to be $710,000. Costs of septage receiving, $258,000. We add in our new ongoing costs or new one-time costs of $48,000. We'd be able to transfer $411,000 to the reserve for covering some of those the solids disposal down the road, and so which leaves no surplus and no deficit. Once again, embedded in our one-year budget, there's a couple of items there that are capital or project work, I'll call it, really, for the septage system, adding up to $650,000. Majority of that is the septage disposal. And the other item is there just a septage continuation or closure plan, whatever that would look like for down the road. So now if we add in all the project work, then the only thing that changes there is we bring in the 650,000 from reserves to cover the 650 of, I call it capital, but it's really project work to get rid of the biosolids or the solids. So what would a 23% increase look like for our fees and charges or our user fees? So you'd be looking at a residential fee going from $494 to $607 annually. Parcel tax would remain at the $274. Apartments $304 to $374, and commercial rate would go from $1,041 to $1,280. This is just a quick snapshot of what reserves are available or surplus available for use within the sewer operating fund. We have a little bit of surplus there. 185,000 really isn't a lot. If we ever had a big urgent matter come up, we would like to build this up so that if we could deal with anything that came our way. And we have a little bit in the sewer capital reserve, 133,000. Septage reserve, which is really for the solids disposing. There's 363,000, and we're adding another 400 this year, so we will have enough to cover off the disposal for this year, and we'll continue to put money in there to cover future costs. Sewer DCCs, $2.3 million. This money can only be spent on very specific projects. It's not just for any capital projects. We do have a DCC bylaw that lays out what this money can be spent on and for. And of course, the gas tax money that we get from the provincial federal government can be used for sewer, but once again, it's restricted in its use. So in conclusion of my presentation, the sewer system is still a bit underfunded from a revenue perspective. In the sewer system, we don't transfer much in the way to reserves, but we're able to cover our capital for the most part. But it would be nice to have a little bit more into reserves. There is, once again, necessary work that needs to be completed in 2021 to keep everything moving forward. Yes, there is a proposed increase of about 23% to sewer user fees at this point, but there'll be further discussions with Committee of the Whole and Council. And we've planned about $2.8 million of capital for 2021. The budget here contains an addition of 2 part-time staff, and one would be related to a service level increase. And I think that's all I had.
Thank you, Director Douglas. While you were speaking, I noticed that for some reason we don't have the option to raise hands on this Zoom meeting. So I'm going to ask instead if I believe everybody does have a yes/no button, and there's also clapping and thumbs up, thumbs down. So please feel free to, oh, never mind. Looks like we've got our raise hand option back. So thank you. We had someone working in the background to get that up and running. So if we do have one question in the chat to start with, and then we can go through hands if people would like to verbally ask some questions as well. Oh, Matt McLean says raise hand is under reactions now. Is that in the more? Oh, I'm not allowed to raise my hand because I'm the host, so that's fine. So the question we had, I'm not sure if this is best for Dave, Director Douglas, or this one might be better for Christine. Miller, our wastewater supervisor. Is heat recovery from inflows part of WRC operations?
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Yes, it is. We have a system that's called the Shark system that works as a heat recovery unit, taking heat from the primary and putting it into our multi-stack, which we use to feed all the heat pumps and the hot water tanks in the plant.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other hands raised and no other questions in the chat just yet. Was there any other questions for Director Douglas today, or Christine Miller, or our Director of Engineering and Operations, Kern Dillon, is here as well?
Looks like you did a really good presentation, Dave.
Thank you.
There's got to be some questions. Don't be shy.
We've got one popped up into the chat. It just says staffing requests. So I'm not sure if we're looking for a little bit more information about the 2 staff that are proposed for the 2021 budget.
Okay, I'll briefly bridge that one. So one of the part-time positions is at Dusty Road, and that would be to increase the level of service or dumping time that people can dump there. Like I said earlier, we dump from 8 o'clock till 2. Adding a part-time person to would allow us to go further, maybe 3:30 or 4 o'clock, to allow dumping for later in the day. The other position would be a person that would be utilized at the Water Resource Center and the collection system, as you know, the people that work there, that there's a lot of work to be done, and they could always use an extra set of hands to with the maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
I can quickly share the org chart too if they want to see that. Yeah, so here's the current kind of staff that we have there, the levels, and the 2 additional positions we're looking for are shown at the bottom in yellow.
we're not seeing your screen share.
Oh, there. Should see it now.
Yes.
Yeah, so the 2 in yellow are the new positions that we want to add to the team there. And right now we have 7 total, so we want to add 2 more.
Okay, thank you. And the question, he added that Dylan had requested more now and more for this waste handling. I'm not sure if that is just in reference to the septage and the collection and treatment, but those were the only 2 staff we had projected for the next. Does that cover the whole 5-year plan or just for this year?
I'm only aware of the 2 that we've requested, the 2 in yellow that are shown. We're not requesting any more beyond that for the next, 5 years at least. I mean, things could obviously change as soon as we do more work. We'll, I'm sure, stumble upon a few more issues that might need special attention, but this is our request for now.
Great. Another question popped up in the chat. Is there a proposed adjustment to septage disposal fees in 2021?
Currently, there is not. We did raise them significantly last year. The increase was for about half the year, and so the increase from last year will now kind of be annualized in this budget. So we will get to know what the annual revenues will be going forward, and we are keeping a watch on that very, very closely. So if there seems to be a deficit, we will have to adjust for that. Yes. But right now, there's no plans for further increase.
Okay, thank you. And that's all the questions we've received so far. Were there any other questions anyone was hoping to ask? Councillors, Mayor, you're welcome to ask questions as well. Although there were many at the Committee of the Whole presentation as well, so I imagine most of those have been answered. I'm not seeing any hands. If anyone's having trouble with their raise hand feature, please feel free to unmute yourself if you were hoping to speak. I don't see any telephone callers, so we shouldn't be having any technical difficulties on that side.
So once the presentation is complete, because we are scheduled to go till 1 o'clock, but once it's complete, if there are other questions, how can those questions be submitted?
They can send questions in by email to finance@seashell.ca. If anyone would like to ask a question that's not related to sewer, I think we can open up the floor for other budget questions, although keeping in mind that presentations for general operating budget and capital are still yet to come to the Committee of the Whole, so those will be coming soon. We've got a new question in the chat. Why are there separate parcel and user fees, and why are user fees the only ones going up?
So a number of years ago, parcel tax was put into place to cover the capital costs of the Water Resource Center, and so that is a fixed cost, the debt charge, and so that's why that one hasn't moved. Operating costs, when they go up and down, it's usually reflected in the user fees, because they're the user fees cover the operating costs of our water treatment, or our collection and treatment. So that's why the user fees are the ones that usually goes up.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Well, I'd like to thank everybody again for joining us today. We'll call one more time for any questions or comments. Otherwise, please feel free to send in your questions through finance@seashell.ca. And any comments and suggestions could also go to council@seashell.ca. That will reach every council member's inbox as well. Okay, if there are no further questions, I think we'll go ahead and end the session. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, staff.